Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Are you all tuning in watching the Notre Dame Cathedral? All those famous people sat there, all those church people, bishops, all the Catholic religion, they're all there in their masses, aren't they? 5 years to complete that thing. I suppose it's quite remarkable by the standard that they've got it to at the moment. But I've just been looking at the origin of the church organ, and correct me if I'm wrong, it is only 1,000 years old, the organ, the invention of the organ. So I went to Genesis. I thought, why not? So let's go there together. And as you know, there was the two main instruments were the harp and the flute. But there's an early mention, isn't there, of a character that was a cousin or a descendant of Cain, known as Jubal. And you don't get a lot about him, but you do get this. It says in Genesis 4:21, his brother's name was Jubal. He was a founder of all those who play the harp and the pipe. Okay, so it doesn't say flute. It says pipe. But that doesn't mean organ. So keeping my logical head on, knowing that the church organ is only 1,000 years old and the translation of the Holy Scriptures would have to go back another 1,000 years on top of that, we can only presume that this is an addition. The Catholics added this instrument into their playmake, their box of tricks, if you like. And the reason why they would have added it is because of the extended notes that the church organ can give out. As long as there's enough wind in the bellows, you can keep those notes going on an organ. And that is quite crucial, isn't it, in worship terms. Whereas other instruments, they sound, but in a limited way. So if you were playing the harp, yes, it's a beautiful instrument, but it's not an ongoing sound. It quickly comes to an end, and then you've got to continually. Do you understand what I mean? Whereas a church organ has the ability to sustain long, extenuating notes. And that is what I gleaned from watching the opening ceremony for Notre Dame. That when that guy was on the church organ, he could just go from small notes, large notes, to huge crescendos, and it could keep the spectacle going for a long period of time. But let's go back to where you can see me. But when you look at that Genesis scripture, you immediately think of who invented music. And there is some indication that Cain, as you know, played a couple of instruments, didn't he? But this is a descendant of Cain, Jubal. And next to his name, we have not got organ, we've got the harp, and we've got not the flute, but a variation of that. So a lot of people would say that you could say that was pointing towards an early adaptation of the church organ. But I say it's not, because 1,000 years is a long time, isn't it? After that, after the translation of the Holy Scriptures, before we got an actual physical invention of the church organ. But certainly our ancestors, our biblical ancestors, were musically inclined. And that's a great thing, because with music, a person can draw us a lot closer to the Most High. So, yeah, I do understand why most huge religions today use whatever means they can to bring in the masses, the flock, and to galvanize their flock. I understand why they would do that and why they chose the organ for the sustained notes. But I've always thought when I've listened to an organ, I've never really associated it with true worship. I've always thought, well, hang about. What about all those films that I've saw with the Hammer House of Horrors and Dr. Phibes, the abominable Dr. Phibes, playing the church organ and then carrying out atrocities. So I've always considered that the church organ is a very gothic and a very evil instrument. That's how I see it. I've never associated it with pure, unadulterated, true worship of God, even if the Catholics do. And that's just my opinion, people. And we're all entitled to an opinion. I'll see you again.